Have you ever wondered what it actually means to use your voice? Now, I've seen this come up a lot lately, and I actually was very much inspired by a conversation that I had recently on the podcast. And so, we're going to talk about what it means to use your voice and how you can actually make an impact with it. If you're new here, I'm your host, Roxanne, and I speak to founders and creators on what it means to leave an impact and how we can help each other thrive. Now, like I said, today's episode is deeply inspired by a conversation that I recently had, and it was all about using your voice. And I feel like this is coming up a lot lately when people are trying to become more visible and try to actually get their story across. Storytelling is becoming bigger and bigger every single day, and knowing how to tell your story in a way that resonates with other people and really helps you connect deeply with them is becoming more and more valuable. So when I think about using your voice, I really think about the people who inspire me the most. So when I was really thinking about what it means to use your voice and how that can look for different people, and a lot of the time I am inspired by conversations that I have with people. So it's not necessarily someone who creates something like a song that you really like and you really start to idolize that person. It's more just conversations that I have every single day that provoke me to think differently. So when I think about what all of the most inspiring people to me have in common, there are a few different things that I find they all have in common. So first of all, they share their story so openly and they know how to actually communicate it. And this isn't something that everybody knows how to do very comfortably, and it takes time to practice and get better at. I mean, I personally am only starting to share parts of my story that I have never really shared before, and the more that I do it, the more comfortable I get. First, it is kind of scary and I don't really know how it's going to be received, but that's what I find really inspiring about a lot of people, is that they can share their story and communicate it well. Another thing is that they talk about causes that they actually really care about. Like, I feel like a lot of people do have things that they genuinely love to talk about and are very inspired by, and it actually means something to them, and there's a purpose behind why they do what they do, and it's in relation to this cause, and it's something maybe that's inspired them. So for example, my dad had terminal cancer, and that was just a few years ago, and I experienced so much heaviness at that period of my life that every single thing that I wanted to do was to help people who were going through hardship. And that's still a lot of what I do today. And it's because I felt that myself. And experiencing loss from cancer is something that not everybody can understand, but when it's a parent, especially for me as a parent as well, it was even more difficult. And I found that one of the only things that got me through was really just focusing on taking care of myself and taking care of my soul. And I understood a lot about who I am and who I wanted to be going through that experience. And now I feel more and more comfortable every single time I talk about it to share that with others. Unfortunately, it was a hardship that I had to experience, but I do find that there was so much good that came out of it. Like, now I get to share that story with other people, and hopefully that gives them that hope that they need in order to keep going and keep moving forward in their day-to-day, because sometimes it can feel really hard and really heavy, but knowing that someone else has been through that and someone has been able to come out the other side in an inspiring way is one way that I personally think is so important as to why you share your story. Another thing that I find so inspiring about these people is that they actually use their platforms, or however they do things, if it's speaking, if it's going and doing workshops or webinars, whatever it is, they use that to educate other people so that those people also have the tools and resources that they need to move forward themselves. And these people that I find so inspiring, they're always very bold and so authentic to who they are. They're so genuine, and they just want to help other people. And at the end of the day, it looks different for everybody. Sometimes, it's through your business. Sometimes it's through the conversations that you have. It doesn't really matter. It's just those are the things that I find so inspiring by those people. And these people that inspire me the most to use my own voice are people who could have stayed silent, but they chose to speak up instead. And that is a very difficult thing to do, but it is also so powerful. And I feel like the more people that speak up about their experiences and their stories helps us all connect closer to each other, but also helps us move forward together. And the thing that I love the most about actually using your voice and sharing your story and sharing your experiences is the ripple effect that actually happens. I think people don't really realize the impact that it can actually leave for others if you are sharing your story so organically and so authentically with others in the hopes of helping somebody else. And it only comes from a place of you actually being genuinely wanting to share these things. And it's something that I struggle with myself sometimes. I'm like, how do I make this more appealing to other people? But the less that you do that, the more that you actually connect with people who get what you have to say and understand why you do it. If you are not speaking organically as yourself, if you're not just being who you are, then it's so hard for people to actually connect with you because they don't have anything to connect with. They're only connecting with a false version of you, which is not who you are. And then it becomes exhausting and you have to keep up this facade all of the time, which nobody wants to see anyways. You're not truly connected with anybody. And I know this from my own experience. I spent years being a people pleaser and wanting to just create things that people loved so that I could feel validated. But it wasn't until I started actually showing my personality and telling you guys what I value and what I care about that I started to find more people who actually felt the same. And that was where the community started to become built. When you are sharing your experiences and your stories and using your voice for good, and the intention behind it is so clear and concise, and people really resonate deeply with what you have to say, because there always will be someone who resonates deeply with what you have to say. There are so many people in the world, and you need to remember that the world is huge, the world is massive, and there's always going to be someone that you can reach as long as you share that message and use your voice. The thing is, when you're actually doing this, you can directly influence people to make a lasting impact, a lasting change. It might not. And I found this was so profound recently when I was really thinking about it more, and I was saying to myself, like, oh, I'm just one person. I can't change the world. But the thing is, we do it together. And if you are open to sharing what it is that you care about, there's probably somebody who cares about that as well. And maybe they will be the one who will be able to make a bit more of a change. And we kind of all do it together. So if you have, I always use this example of, like, if I'm kind to you, if I do a kind gesture for you, maybe you will be the person who starts a podcast or actually like pushes yourself forward to do something that you've always been wanting to do, and maybe you'll reach somebody else. And that's kind of how I like to do things. I want people to feel empowered in who they are so that they can then inspire somebody else. And that is my purpose. Like, every time I think about it, I'm like, this is what it always comes back to, is that connection, and truly like using what I have, what God's given me, to share with you guys. If I can leave you with one piece of advice for this podcast episode specifically, just one thing that you can do today, it is to share something a little bit more vulnerable. Share something a little bit more about your story today to see how people respond to it. Sometimes people are going to be negative, and sometimes people are going to feel seen, and that is all we want. We want one person to feel seen, one person to feel understood, and that is the change that we want to create. It always starts with one person. So through those honest conversations and speaking up truthfully about who you are and what you do and what your purpose is and what you believe and the hardships that you face, but the wins that you have along the way, that is what connects people deeply with you. That is what people want to hear from you. They want you to use your voice. And when you could be silent, maybe is the perfect time for you to speak up. So if I can encourage you to do one thing today, I want to encourage you to use your voice. Speak up a little bit more. Be a little bit more bold today. Even if it's just like a social media post you've been putting off. Maybe it's starting your podcast. Maybe it's, looking into a business that you've been wanting to start. Just start with one thing today that makes you feel like you are empowered within your own voice. If it's sharing your story, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a conversation with somebody who you just want to open up with a little bit more and connect deeper with. Use your voice as best as you can to try to make an impact somewhere. That is the secret sauce to building lasting connections and actually making a change in the world. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Let us know what your main takeaway was on social media by tagging @riseofher_. I always love to see what you guys are listening to and how you receive the conversations that we have over here. So feel free to share this with somebody who you feel might need to hear this message today. And I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will chat to you guys very, very soon.